how can we do this together? We may disagree or we may be from a different color, but let's agree to make our country better and the world better. And the only way to do it is together.
Today I have Machiel Hoek with me, and it's time to discuss being an author. Machiel, thank you for joining me today, all the way from Holland.
Thank you then for having me.
Absolutely. So let's talk about how you got started being an author. So I guess for starters, have you are your books traditionally published? Are you more of a self-published? What is that like for you?
I'm not an author by nature, so get back to maybe to that. But when I finalized my first book, which took me 10 years, I wanted, of course, to reach the world. And by doing that, you need a big publisher. So I started approaching every kind of publisher and getting every kind of rejection um, that I had, up until the point I thought there's nothing left. So at that point, I thought it was COVID time, and I thought this book is here. It's worthwhile. It's valuable. I need to share it with the world. So I just made a decision. I print 2,000 books on my versions on my own costs, and I just spread them around in my village and my neighborhood, door to door with a note. And the responses from people were so. It was a lockdown period, so I thought, well, give some people something to do to read, and the responses to the fact that I did it, but also the books itself were so heartwarming, were so amazing, goosebumping that I thought, okay, I gotta give this another try. So I approached some final publishers that I had left on my list, and one said, "Yeah, this is wonderful. We got to do this." So in the end, it's some kind of self-publishing first, and then to a small author and to a small publisher. And I think that is, let's say, the small publishing houses are the ones that are most, I think, in line with what people write, because they are. Um, they're caring about their authors, they're caring about what they bring to the world. But I also know that if you want to reach the big audience, I don't want it to reach a big audience because I want to change the world. You also need a maybe sometimes bigger publisher, or you need to do a lot yourself. And that's the route I chose, to do a lot myself, do a lot of not marketing, but try to convince people, but just share the book and see how it works out. So it's a combination of that. And the book is now just published in America because I had a mission to bring it to America. And that is also a combination of a publisher, but also with some of my own influence in that. And I like that combination.
I love your story. I love how, you wrote this book, very proud of it. You try shopping it to different publishers and you get the rejection after rejection. And then you said, you know what? I'm gonna give this out anyway. And you print 2,000 copies and you start giving it to different people. And then you didn't give up. You tried the publishers again, and they said, you know what? Yes, we will take this. We will publish this. I love that. That is an awesome introduction to this story of yours.
And then, because I wanted to get to America, a year ago, I had the translation, I had everything ready. And again, I approached a lot of agents and publishers directly, of course, as well. Let's do this again. And again, I got only nothing but rejections for any unknown foreigner wanting to publish a book in the US. What are you thinking? So then I thought, okay, I'm coming to America. I again printed 2,000 copies of the book, the English version, shipped them to LA, and started handing them out there in on the streets. And nobody in LA wants to take anything from you on the street because you could be asking $10 or $20 for it just the next second. So people didn't want it. And I saw a lot of homeless people. And I thought, well, okay, I'm just going to give boxes of my books to homeless people on the streets and say, okay, you can sell it or you can give it away. People can give you some money. So it's a win-win situation. So the homeless network in LA started spreading the book there. And then I finally went to Burning Man last year, but through SF, and I went through smaller villages with large streets of these wonderful big American houses and a lot of the American typical mailboxes in front of us. So I thought, so that's easy. I can just drive by, stop the car every time, put a book into the mailbox, and drive on like a real mailman. So I really enjoyed doing that until I heard a siren behind of me, and someone just said, "Hey, come out of the car, sir. You're committing a federal crime." I didn't know that's how this works with US mailboxes, but apparently that was not the way to do. So I got almost arrested or got a fine, but my defense was, "Hey, I'm Dutch, I don't know," and that helped. That got me out.
Wow. It's interesting. So I am aware that with mailboxes, it's supposed to be for, official US postage use
Yeah.
only, but I've never heard, and people put stuff in mailboxes all the time. They'll put flyers in there all the time. I've never heard of people actually, quote unquote, getting into trouble for it.
In either so, that was first timer and last timer for me.
And that's interesting too, talking about the culture, where you are versus in LA. It seemed like you had much better luck handing out the books, in your home country as opposed to LA, which seemed like a total flop in the beginning.
Exactly, because for me, I've never been in LA before. A lot of times on the West Coast, but not LA. The controversy or the contrast between ultra rich and ultra poor is so close to each other. You drive from Beverly Hills to the shelter camp, a large camp within a mile, I think, in a radius or 1.5 miles. It's so close and it's so extreme that it gives a different point of view or different needs way of experiencing that city and America compared to maybe European principles where we tend to we don't like to get these discrepancies get too big.
Earlier, you talked about going to Burning Man. Now, I know very, very little about the festival. I know about its existence. I believe it's in the Midwest. But from an author's perspective, what was that like for you and your books while you were there?
10 years ago, I went there for the first time because I just put my life upside down. And the decision was based upon also to go on a quest and write a book about that. And at Burning Man, I had a profound, for me, profound experience where I got in touch in some way with yeah, you can call it a spiritual experience, a little soul that I wanted to be a father all my life, but in my relationship, I never was able to become a father. But I got in touch with what I thought was this child's soul. So we had a conversation there, and it was so magical that I thought, wow, this is what I want in life. And I called her Lisa, my daughter. And when I started writing the book, and I knew it, I first thought it was to be about a boy, I knew it had to be about a girl. I called her Lisa as well. So I created my own daughter in my book, and then my life also changed, and I was able to become a real father in real life 4 years ago from a son. But at that point, it was so magical for me that I thought, okay, I have to come back, and I came back this year after the book was just published in America, and to bring it back there. So like a 10-year cycle, closing it, saying, okay, wow, this started here, and now there's a next cycle coming on. So Burning Man is for me, it's not even called a festival. It's more like the spiritual experience and connecting with people in so unexpected ways. It's more synchronicity and serendipity. And you meet people that can give you new information or can bring you somewhere. It's just an amplifier of everything that happens out on the streets. Everyone is open for it, and it just magic happens within 1 week. And that's my experience every time. So for as an author or writer, if you want to reach certain people or new people, as an artist, as a creator, as a creative person, you go out there and magic happens by definition.
Going back, you talked about getting your books translated into English.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was that process like for you? How simple was that? Was that you had to hire your own translator? Did the publishing company do that for you? What is that typically like?
For me, it was doing myself because I wanted to be in control and I wanted to. A publisher typically never does that unless there's of course the promise of a market that will really buy your book, but that's not certain anyway for another person. So I had it professionally translated, but then you have the choice to American English or English, British English. So I thought, well, start with British English first and then go to American English. So it's a book written in Dutch. We're going to British English, and then the translator said, and of course the proofreader said, well, this and this and this and this. These are things that are not so common in Great Britain, so you might want to change them. Okay, that's English, and then we had to translate to the American, and there's so much more things coming on. So there's a homeless person in the book, and Grandpa goes to the homeless person with his daughter because she's afraid of him, and tries to get the interaction. But in America, you say, well, you never go as an adult with a child go to a homeless person because that's not what you do. And there were lots of these cultural differences that were also addressed in this translation. It was very, I was learning a lot about that. I say, okay, these are differences that when you write something, that's okay, but you have to adapt to what people are used to. And you don't want to, of course, estrange them from you, but you also want to bring a certain message. There's also a message about taking control of your own life, but also taking ownership of things that happen. And that's a spiritual principle saying, I am the cause of everything. And in this practical example, the grandfather gets an accident. There's a boy just slamming his car with his bike. The grandfather's not at fault, but he takes on the blame. He takes on the fault for the mother of this boy to make sure they're all right and they're taken care of. And also the response from my translator was, in America you don't do that. You never put yourself up vulnerable for any litigation or damage claim. And that's the problem, in my view, with what happens in our capitalist and American society. You gotta take ownership of things that you do, and if you can help things by taking control of taking ownership or blame, do that. I finally hired an editor that really massaged the book into a different level because still it's important. Language is so delicate, and translating from one language to another, I learned that is not the full job done.
One thing I like to talk about is the education and how that factors into different people's jobs or careers. So,
Yeah.
did you go to school to write, or is it something that you just enjoyed doing? How did your education impact you as an author?
I started studying economics. I became an accountant, a CPA. Then I became a CEO, and I became an entrepreneur. But my education was just based on education was based on facts and getting things straight. And the only thing I think that in the long run helps people to do is thinking on a certain way, having a critical reasoning or critical analysis. And what I learned when I started working with one of those big major audit firms, the Big Four. You learn there to report in a very concise way. Say, okay, this is what is going on, this is the implication, and this is what we advise. And that has helped me in my writing and to say, I want to be so clear. I want to have a compelling story that people just start reading and they want to finish it straight away. And I want to have everything I explained there, every example, every layer to be so clear that it will just get into their head and they will practice it or apply it in their everyday lives. So I think normally education helps you in a way of thinking, but depending on, of course, your profession. But in this case, the practical application in first starting as an auditor and audit from auditor to author seems like the other way, the other world round. But it's for me that helped me in my writing, I think, the most.
Okay. Going back, you talked about in the very beginning, you talked about getting all those rejection letters. What kept motivating you? Because that's got to be hard, anytime you create something that you put your soul into,
Yeah.
and just one person or company after another says, "No, this isn't good. This isn't good." What kept you going? What was that drive? Was it just because you knew the book was that good, or what kept you going?
When I finished the manuscript, I I had my wife reading it. And I know you talked about your wife, how you interacted before starting this series and what you do and how you bring this in the world. And she read it and she finished and said, "That's why I'm married to you." And that for me was okay, okay. And she's not easy. I think with you see, she's not easy on me. She won't say that, and if she doesn't like it, everything, some things later on, she said this is totally crap. So change it. She's really fully honest and straight in that, like I think in your case as well. So that for me was okay. This is special, and I need to do this. And the first response of the people in my neighborhood also were like so heartwarming. "Okay, this got to be done." But apparently, you have to go through all these rejections, and I learned that publishing in most cases just a bit old-fashioned, but plain business, and they want to do easy business, and it's easy if you are famous, if you have a great social media presence in these days, or if you bring something that is really, really related to an actual event in the world going on. Those are the easy steps, but for the rest, you have to fight for it. Well, then let's fight. I just thought I got to bring this out. I turned my life upside down to write it, to finish it. So I'm not gonna quit.
When you're talking about your wife reading the book, it reminded me of when I spoke with Brian Freed. He was an inventor. Awesome conversation. Talked about a couple of his inventions he made. But I talked to him about, or how involved is your family with the inventions you make? And he said kind of like, at first, family, friends, they kind of want to sugarcoat things, but then it gets to the point where it's like, no, this has no legs, or this is crap, or whatever. So it's neat that to hand the book off to hand the manuscript off to your wife, and you get that legit feedback from you. That is just awesome. I love that. Absolutely love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, same here. That's most valuable. And if it's straight into your heart, it's straight into your heart. It's like, okay, wow.
So you talked about social. So let's brush on that real quick. Tell me how social media is impacting you as an author. Are you directly involved with your own social media stuff? Do you have people that are doing your social stuff for you? What's that like for you?
Social media for me is I'm 51, so I didn't grow up with it. And for me, it's like, and that's also typical Dutch or maybe European culture, you don't want to over scream yourself too much. So in this side of the ocean, we're more like, okay, if you act, even just act normal, then that's already good. So everything's tempted to lower down a bit. And I thought, well, it's about a book and it's about the story and it's got to change the world and it's got to do it on itself. And it took me a while to learn or to accept that, okay, if I am the creator of this book and I'm the messenger, so I need to take the stage to bring this further, otherwise no one will do it. So it took me some time to embrace that. And still, I have a very not dormant, but not too active relationship with social media. I thought, okay, it grows, but for me, it's still a bit uneasy in a way that I only want to be there if I have something useful to say or useful to report. Like you create these podcasts every time. So you go out saying, this is what I created and this is what's worthwhile looking for. And I think I'm not sure if that's for you true or that's easier for you to step out into the outside world. But if you created something and you want to stand out to reach out to the world and say, hey, this is what I got. Please take a look. But with one book, it's just one book, and then oh yeah, can repeat myself 10 times or 20 times. That's what I thought. I adapted it a bit. But how's that for you? Is it easier for you to go out and say, hey guys, come on?
It's funny. Your timing of this question is awesome because just the other day I was speaking with a friend and she said to me, she's like, Dan, what kind of music can you recommend these days? What are you listening to? And I haven't listened to anything new really in like 20 years. I'm still stuck in my college days. So I was like, I don't really have anything new to recommend to you. But then I walked away and I thought about it more. And I was like, actually, like, I do have some of my own music. And I told her, I was like, I'm terrible at self-promoting. But I was like, if you want something different to listen to, here's this. And I said, I also have this podcast. If you listen to podcasts, you might find this interesting. I talk to so many interesting people. So it's interesting for me that I find it very hard to in person, promote myself or the projects I'm working on. But for social media, there's that level of disconnect where it's, I'm just talking to a screen kind of. It's so much easier to self-promote and, be a little over the top.
And I envy the younger generation, and of course you're younger than I am, but even my son, he's 4 years old, but the way he expresses himself, and we don't get him on any phone or camera, but just the way he expresses, like, okay, you're born with this natural. I would like to have that too, or maybe I had that and it's been pushed out by education.
So, Machiel, I am running a little short on time, but one thing I like to do whenever I'm speaking with someone, I like to give them the opportunity to talk about a cause they believe in, a project they're working on, the business that they have, their books. So if there's something specific you'd like to discuss, I'd like to open the floor for you to tell some more.
What I wrote was The Girl Who Changed the World. It's about a girl stepping into the world and discovering the secret of life, being guided by her grandfather and being confronted with her own fears. And on that process, she learns what it is to look at the world with different eyes and even see what happens when things change. Does the world come to me, or is the world a reflection of what I'm radiating? And she learns that, but she also discovers this. Her grandfather has a dark secret, and she, of course, starts poking him until he has to dive into it himself. But it's a book about looking in a different way at the world. It's a book about trying to find the connection between yourself and other people, and how you can really incorporate it into your heart. And in everyday discussion with anyone, you can relate to the other person as if it were you, because you know that we're all from the same source. But you can also even picture that you could have been the other person. I could have been you. If I were born in your cradle, I would have been there. So, and maybe we've made different choices, but if I were the exact DNA and the exact same soul, etc., I would have been you. And that opens up for her, but also opened up for me when dealing with that, such a different way to look at life and what happens in the world. And I wanted to bring that out in the world, especially in America, because I think what we see in the world is a lot of polarization. So people saying, you're right or wrong, it's black or white, you're with me or against me. And that's a system where people say, I'm going to do the right thing and you're stupid. So I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat and I'm going to rule this country, but not with you. Whereas in the old days, elders ruling or leading a society or a smaller group of people say, how can we do this together? And I think people being elected should do that. People in control in every company should do that. How can we do this together? We may disagree or we may be from a different color, but let's agree to make our country better and the world better. And the only way to do it is together instead of polarizing. So that's why this is a mission for me to bring this book to America, because I would like to contribute a part to that to change the world in a way that we are more looking at the common ground and the connective factor. And last but not least, and I'll stop talking, is that this book is about a girl. It's also a small calling upon women in the world, femininity. In my view, our world has been ruled and dominated by masculine energy for millennia, and everything that's overturned by one element is going out of balance. Is going in the end will tilt the boat. And I think we need for the world, if we want to continue humanity for ages to be able to live on this planet, we need balance between feminine and masculine energy. And not by saying, oh, we're going to 50-50 women in boards and 50-50 women in politics. We also need to rewrite the rules, because most of the rules were written by men in the old ages, and they are advantaging the masculine qualities and disadvantaging the feminine qualities. So that's the last part I want to really call out to women. Say, how can we change this in a way that is a sustainable way going forward, where we both groups and every type, every person, every race, every religion, every color, every background, every conviction, every preference can live together in harmony. Well, that might be a long road, but I would love to get out a question and say, okay, by bringing these two energies together, how can we solve that?
That is awesome. There's so much to unpack there, and I absolutely love it. I was speaking with Mickey Mickelson several months ago at this point. But I remember when we were closing out, we talked about the idea of equity and equality and how important that is. And I remember speaking with, I think it was the woman that runs a virtual assistant agency. And similar thing with women, how important it is for equality and equity and, bring them up to the same playing field, and how our culture is the way it is right now, kind of like how you were just describing. And then bringing the political part to it, they say the countries, and I would agree with this, our country is so divided on pretty much every major issue, and it's so sad. But say all that for another time. But Machiel, it's been absolutely awesome having you on time. We discuss and we learned what it's like to be an author.
Thank you, Dan. It was awesome to be on your show, and I really love what you're doing. And I hope you can continue until you have the full encyclopedia of all professions and all entrepreneurships. And then adding to that, thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely. I will add. So there was a podcast I used to listen to. I don't anymore because of time constraints, but it was called, or is called, I think it's still around. It's called Stuff You Should Know. And it's put out by the Discovery Network. And it was one of these things where it's like they were out to talk about everything that they could find. And I feel like I'm on that same mission from a career perspective. I'm on a mission to find out all of them that are out there. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I hope I built up that encyclopedia like you described.
Wow.
Again, awesome having you on, and we'll be in touch because I have to get all those links from you so I can post them on the website for people to see.
Thank you very much, Dan. Much appreciated. Have a great remainder of the day.